It seems like every day I'm hearing about some new video technique, some new gear, something new that's happening all the time. And there's people like this week's guest that are able to keep up with that. Toni Dolce is the CEO of Purple Critter Media. They're based in New York. They do a lot of very, very cool things. If you would like to learn how to capture better content and do it in different and new ways, stay tuned. Toni, thank you for coming on. I'm excited about this. You guys do some amazing stuff. So I know this is going to be a great conversation here. You've transitioned from a successful career in classical music to now video production. What motivated that shift?
Well, Josh, thanks so much for having me. I'm glad to be here in conversation with you. It really was an organic shift. My husband, who's also my partner in business, and I both began in classical music, and we still continue to be in classical music. And what happened is that around 12 years ago, we were at this point where cameras were becoming a little bit more affordable for the consumer. And so we said, instead of paying somebody to do a music video for us or photography for our latest CD, what would it look like if we invested in ourselves? And we decided to buy a camera. And back then, I think it was 2009 or 10. Actually, gosh, we've been doing this for longer than I thought. Okay. So let's say for 15 years. So back in 2009, 2010, 2011, around there, we bought our first camera, which was a Canon 5D. And at the time it was, the most amazing camera that could do video clips, and it could also take great photos. And so now we look at it and we're like, But for just starting out, that's what we had. And I actually have a picture of us where we were so excited about purchasing the camera, and I held like a little flower as a microphone. And it was just kind of like, oh, look at us. We just got our first camera. This is so great. And we really started making stuff for ourselves and for our careers. And we made our own music videos. We shot our own content. Andy had an established audio business already before I came into the picture. So he already knew the audio component. And then we learned the video component together. And we have really organically grown. So it started out where we were making stuff for ourselves. Our colleagues noticed, hey, who did your music videos, or who did your photography for your CDs? And they asked, could you do ours? So then it was, okay, we began just within our circle of influence, those colleagues. And then it branched out where over the years, our colleagues would get additional jobs at universities, whether they were teaching or becoming in administrative positions. And they would say, hey, we need to do a campaign for the school. Would you mind? So we really built within our community. And then around 8 years ago, we really made a shift to be concentrated outside of the classical music community, because we knew it, and we knew that we had to branch out, and that our skills were getting better and our teams were getting bigger, and the technicality of what we were doing is really advanced. When you do 10 camera multi-capture for a symphony orchestra, and then it goes to broadcast, there are many ways that you can use those skills to make more money in the private sector outside of the music and the arts. And so we had to make a shift. And so now about 50% of our work is still within classical music, and now 50% is outside of classical music. So really an organic build. And we still do music, and we're still in music, but we also have a business, and we have no children, and our business is our baby.
I understand that also. Yes. It's because, well, what do you spend your time doing? Not soccer games, not volleyball games, not swim practice. We just work. I get that part. With that, something that anyone that does like content creation, you can always see kind of where their background started. How do you think, coming from the music and coming from like knowing that area so well, how do you think that changes, or what do you think that does with your style in terms of how you guys capture things?
being artists and being in front of the camera and then also being behind the camera informs a decision. So when we're directing or producing, it allows us to have that knowledge of, okay, what would look good artistically here? I also really love movement within the cameras. Even for corporate capture, they're used to having static images. Even for a interview setup, we always want to bring in some sense of movement, whether it's a gimbal, whether it's a dolly, whether it's a jib, just to create a bit of excitement within the capture. And as we all see what's happening, our attention spans are really very short. And unless there's some bit of movement within a shot, you're not going to hold the viewer. And so I would say that artistically, what we've come from helps us inform our classical music capture and wanting to have movement within it. But because think about it, it's musicians that are sitting on stage in chairs, playing. They don't really move that
running.
much. I mean, they're moving their instruments, or they're moving their fingers or their mouths, but they're just sitting in chairs. So it's really kind of boring if you just watch that. So we have to create a sense of movement. And then that translates to what we do for our corporate capture as well.
It's funny you mentioned those pieces of movement, because it's something that I've always liked and admired too, because once again, you're able to add interest without stealing the show. So you guys do things with the camera that involve that movement, but once again, people don't really think about the movement. They just find it more interesting. So I absolutely love that. If someone's looking at that, like on a budget, what would you suggest for someone like, hey, I mean, should they start with the gimbal? Should they start with like one of the DJI Osmos or something like that? And what's a key that they should be paying attention to when they're doing some of those movements? Okay,
there's a couple of things to answer within that question. If you're on a budget and you want to create movement, of course, finding something that is, whether it's a DJI product or a knockoff that you can get for a cheaper price point, go ahead and get it. I think that experimenting and keeping the shots steady within their movement. So sure. Whatever you're using, making sure that the flow of that is not jittery, that it's steady within the movement. And I would practice with your phone. So straight away, you can use a phone. My husband, Andy, has a really nice phrase. It's not the arrow, it's the Indian. So
ooh, I like that.
Right. So really, whatever tool you're using, you can get great stuff, and an amazing photographer could get something out of just maybe a Nokia phone. So it's really about practicing and, look at Adorama, B&H for used equipment. For somebody that's just starting out, you can even get creative, and you don't have to, if you don't have any money, let's say that you found within your children's toys, something that was like a train set. You put your phone up on a train set and you use it as a makeshift dolly. I think that your creativity is really what informs it. And then the money will come. And then you can work with bigger budgets, and also you can rent equipment. I guess it's like the creativity is one thing, and then the budget's the next thing, or either.
So the best tool really to start out with is just trying stuff, is build your own, not necessarily the tools, but build the skills instead of the tools.
Yes.
I love that.
And practice, and just be experimental. Have fun.
So speaking of experimental, you've mentioned camera movements. You've mentioned 10 camera shoots. You've mentioned these elaborate things. And as a video company, we know the more moving pieces, the more chances there are for it to go absolutely sideways and horribly. What do you guys do operationally? Do you guys have check sheets? Are you guys, really, is there a flow to things, or is there like down and dirty, this is all buttoned down? Because you guys do some experimental stuff. So to me, it's like, I always wonder how other production houses, I guess I would say, keep it from coming off the rails with some of the moving pieces, and just the look on your face. You can be like, it doesn't always stay on the rails.
Well, that's actually one of the things that we're really proud about, is that we our clients hire us because they anticipate that it's going to be okay. And thankfully, in some of these high pressure shoots where we're doing a live stream of a concert that, it's in many ways very high stakes because the concert isn't going to stop if we can't capture it. So we have to continue on. To speak to your question about standard operating procedures, SOPs. So we have a whole bunch of checklists that are not just only with the technical. So, when you're dealing with a lot of equipment, there's going to be equipment checklists, and then there's going to be setup checklists, and then there's going to be checklists for shots. And so all of those checklists are tweaked. And after each job, we make sure that, okay, what worked, what didn't work. And then we build in redundancy. So for anybody that's starting out, or if you're up leveling and you're getting bigger jobs and the risk of something going awry because maybe you used to just do B-roll and you didn't need to have audio, but now you have to have audio. Well, you can't actually just depend on one channel of audio. You have to make sure that you have two channels of audio, because if one fails, then you would not be able to complete the shoot. So building in redundancy. So we have extra cameras that are on set. We have extra audio that's on set. We have extra lighting that's on set, and building in risk assessments. So
I like that.
Yeah, we have to build all of that in. But I don't know to which your audience speaks, if they're sort of newbies or if they are established enterprises. So whichever level you're at, you're always going to want to build in what's the worst case scenario, anticipate it's going to happen, and already have a checklist of what to do if it does happen.
I love that. I'm a former operations guy. So for me, yes, everything has a checklist, kind of ad nauseum. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You mentioned audio, and you mentioned having backup audios, because especially starting out, everyone has been there. They have gotten back to the editing bay, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, that doesn't sound good. Do you feel like when it comes to like video, to me, something that we talk about with people a lot is audio quality. We've said, at least this is the way I feel about it, and I'd like to get your feedback on it. People will watch a video that may not be the best quality video, but if you sound terrible, they're probably out of there. Do you feel the same way with it? What are your thoughts on that, I guess I would say?
I think that a moving picture is two parts. It's the visual and it's the audio. So they're equally important. And I think that your summation is completely correct, that if it's bad audio, there's something within our, maybe there's a scientific article that can tell us why that is. But whether it's the top end, if it's peaking or if we can't hear it, we don't want to have to strain too much, versus our eyes are maybe more advanced and they can already parcel out all the images and our brains can put it together. But if sounds horrible, we just want to turn it off. So yes, for any movie makers, for anybody that's in the visual arts, the audio is super important. And if you don't have the skills for audio, you can learn them. It's something that, and it's funny, I've found so many people that do video, especially small businesses that are trying to create content for themselves. They're like, how do I look? How does this present? And you're like, it doesn't matter. You sound horrible. Spend the $100, spend the $200 on a microphone that will actually do okay, and then we'll be good. And it's funny, we talked about this beforehand, how you're mic'd up and the way it's set up. And I was kind of glowing about, like, look, the background that you have behind you is once again, I believe that's a little bit of a marketing thing, being purple critter. And I absolutely love it. But when you talked about the microphone, how it's set up, it's a top-down mic. It's all very nice. And you sound great, which so many other people don't always necessarily get that piece to it. You've mentioned something else that, like, throughout, like, some of the Purple Critters stuff and, like, on your LinkedIn and that, about how storytelling is a key. So is there with are you trying to lay out a story too with the cameras and stuff like that? And I guess, is it a different storytelling approach between
an orchestral piece and a marketing piece, or is the orchestral piece in many cases done for marketing?
With every client, we start with the question, what do you want the viewer to think, feel, and do when you're watching? And so whether it's corporate capture or classical music capture or any of our small business clients, we always start with that, and then we work out what the requirements are. So the storytelling within the cameras or within the B-roll or within the additional graphics that we would put up or artwork, like there was one of the Symphony pieces that we did that was on PBS where we hired a illustrator who did amazing illustrations that helped tell a story while there was an underlay of music. So we would cut to the orchestra and then we would cut to her drawings that were moving drawings. So that client needed to cater to an audience that was more children. They needed to educate. So they wanted their viewers to be educated. So when we ask that, what do you want the viewer to think, feel, and do? It's really important because that informs what we're going to do with the cameras. That informs how long the piece will be. That informs how we're going to set them up, what we want the on-camera talent to do or say or be. I mean, if we want a CEO that's delivering a message that they're going to be laying off people and they need to communicate this to their internal comms, like through an internal communication that's going to be through video. Maybe we don't have to go so heavy. Maybe they need to relay a message that isn't the best news. So we would say, okay, well, what do you want your employees to think, feel, and do after that? So if they want their employees to think that they're safe, that they're being taken care of, and that they want them to fill out a survey at the end of the video, I don't know how smiley I would have that CEO be. I don't know how, extra I would have them be. I would also figure out what they're going to wear. What are the colors that they're going to wear? What's the makeup going to look like? What's their background going to look like? Are we going to film it straight to camera? Are we going to film it where they're off speaking to someone where it's more of interview style? So all of those things inform how we're going to tell the story and how we're going to market it.
It's interesting because in so many cases, people go to the light and fluffy videos. And I actually do love the fact that you went to something that's a bit heavier. It's one of those things where we've all filmed things like that, where you've got to get a message out that may not be the rah-rah, happy-go-lucky message. And it's trying to figure those things out in terms of, like, how do we have to do this? Because, do we want the lights dimmer? Do we want a more relaxed look? We probably don't want them with a fireplace in the background looking comfortable. Let's put them in the most uncomfortable chair we have. Those are all the things that get considered when working in a situation. And I'd love to go into that, maybe, I don't want to say darker, but maybe that more difficult situation where it's not the happy-go-lucky or it's not this triumphant story. What do you find the most difficult part of that and trying to get, once again, that message out to people? What's the thing that makes that those videos, I guess I would say, more challenging and I don't want to say more fun, but sometimes the challenge is fun. Is your podcast not getting the results you hoped for? Are you feeling stuck and unsure how to grow your audience or make a real impact? We get it. Podcasting can be a challenge, but with the right strategies, it can be an incredibly powerful tool. That's why we're offering our free no-pitch podcast consultation. We'll spend 30 minutes with you identifying areas for improvement on anything from optimizing your audio or video quality to developing a content strategy that resonates with your customers. If you're ready to unleash your podcast's full potential, visit the link in our show notes to schedule your free consultation. Space is limited, so sign up today so we can help you create a podcast that truly shines.
When you're working with people that aren't natural talent in front of camera, I think the challenge of getting them to be authentic and truthful in front of camera is exciting because then you really are getting through your toolbox of okay, I can do this job. I know that technically we're going to capture them fine, but how's the personality going to come through? Because you want that message to be believed. You want it to connect with the viewer. And so if it's teleprompt, I mean, we work with a lot of C-suite where they're doing teleprompter communication. So we'll work with them on delivering the teleprompter message to make it seem like they're not being delivered on teleprompter, because it's so boring if you're just reading something and the people behind the camera they know, oh, you're just reading this to me. Like, can we connect? Can we get them to deliver authentically what the message is? So the challenge of getting somebody who's not so good on camera to be good on camera is part of what excites us about our jobs, because we like working with super smart people that maybe aren't superstars in front of a camera, and drawing that out of them so that they have a new skill moving forward and that they feel comfortable.
I love that, and I love hearing that, because that truly, truly, truly is a skill. We all have, anyone that has ever stood behind a camera has a horror story of someone in front of the camera where you're just standing there like, oh, this is bad. This is just bad. But you realize that we still have to get this done. We still have to make them look good. We still have to make them sound good. And we still have to make this presentable. I have multiple stories of working with someone for 2 to 3 hours to get that 45-second long video that we're still going to cut up. We still took this sentence, that sentence, and a piece from up over here, maybe 2 words from up over here. And we're like, this is where it sounded good. This is what we're going with. We all know that struggle. That being said, that struggle seems to change over the years, and like getting good audio and doing those other things. It's still very much a skill. But it seems that skill set is changing, and the levers that we have to pull are different now. There are some tools out there that will help polish things up, once again, garbage in, garbage out. But we can get away with a little bit more than we used to be able to. As far as, and I guess I would like to ask this as a 2-part question. What do you see as the future for video in terms of marketing for people? And what do you see as the future from a production side for video?
Okay, so let's start with the marketing and what I think future trends will look like just in video overall. I think that that video will continue to be used as an advertising tool to get us to buy things. So how does that integrate if I'm able to, on my phone, watch something and be able to say, wow, I really like that top, and then just press on the top and be able to have a hyperlink that will go straight to buying something. I think that we're going to see that a lot more. The technology is already there. It just hasn't been rolled out for mass consumption yet, but the technology is there. So it will continue to be used to get money out of our pockets to buy things that we probably don't need, but that we want. And conversely, it will be used in good ways to get us to buy things. Sure. So video will continue to be super heavy. I think that it will also be used in every industry, and that those that haven't thought about using video in the next 5 years, they're going to see that everybody in their industry, whether it's a chiropractor, whether it is the local auto body shop, that within your town, if you're the one using video, you're going to be the one leading within your industry. So small businesses, small town, anybody that's going to be wanting to up-level their business are going to have to use video. That will create a lot more video video jobs or digital media jobs, support jobs within the industry. So it's all upward for video.
What's interesting with the production side is what I see is like when you look at your 5D, that was the camera that everyone got. You could take that out and you could shoot different things. But now when you look at in-body and in-lens image stabilization, what used to be shot on a gimbal, now you can shoot handheld and get pretty good. Some of those tools. So what's a tool or two that you see on the production side that's going to change the game here coming out?
Regarding production, I think that there's going to be a lot more integration regarding the 360 and also the immersion into the virtual world where you are just in it. So video that's going to be created for that 360 world is going to be I think that this generation, like 13-year-old kids, by the time they're 20, that's just going to be part of how they live. So for us in our 30s, 40s, 50s, we're going to be catching up and seeing like, how do I do this? Are we in a simulation? So figuring out that type of capture, that 360 capture, how our clients can use it, anybody that's in the industry staying on the cutting edge. I don't know if you're going to go to NAB this year, but I think that there's going to be a lot of rollout of this new technology. I mean, is it new? No. But is it becoming more commonplace? Yes. And so figuring out how, as a production company, we can, first of all, know how to use it, know how to capture, know how to tell our clients how they can market, and so that they get a return on their investment. So those are the things that I think are going to be coming up for video, that it's just going to be constant. We're in a good industry. I don't think it's going anywhere.
I don't either. It's funny you mentioned the 360 stuff, because it's something that we've started to like look at and like, okay, this is to be aware of. And what's interesting is it truly changes how we have to do things. Because now, I mean, we would stand behind the camera. You can't do that anymore. There's no behind the camera. The camera sees everything. So it's figuring those things out. It's figuring, how do we light that? How do we, I mean, because you can't put the lights just up above, like in here, there's 2 lights there. There's one up behind me. There's one up above me. You can't hide those because it's going to see everything. So how do we integrate those? I love that. And I think that's where some of the skill is going to be very cool. That's coming into the industry. You've had, I have also, and you've had a diverse career path. What advice would you give to someone younger as they're coming out and maybe they're saying, hey, I'm going to get into video, or hey, I'm going to get into marketing, or what's one word of advice? Not one word. What's one sentence of advice that you would give someone as they are starting their career?
For someone starting out in whatever endeavor, whether it's a creative endeavor or if it's just new outside of the box of whatever they're doing, I would say that the biggest thing is to say yes to anything that sort of crosses your desk, because you don't know what's going to resonate. When COVID happened, we ended up taking clients that we never had ever were not on our forecast, right?
Same.
So I think that, but by saying yes, it allowed us to challenge ourselves, and we figured out, oh, we're really good at this portion. This may not be the right industry for us, but we learned skills that then we can bring to our clients, our ideal clients. So someone just starting out, they don't know everything. They have probably a good core set. And I would say that it would be important to figure out what your key set of skills is, and then delegate out what you're not good at. So you don't have to learn everything, but I think you have to be aligned, and video is very collaborative. I mean, unless you want to just be a one-man show, which can get really taxing, it's a lot, that I would bring in other people that are experts in something, or that they're passionate, so that you can build a team and you get to have fun. I mean, you're in a creative space, video, marketing. It's like a really fun, interesting career path, and just say yes and start building a team.
I love that. I love that answer in a few parts. And one, I guess I would say, is you don't know what you don't know. So saying yes to some things, if you don't like it, you'll figure that out after you've said yes to it. But especially younger starting out, that is phenomenal advice. I wish someone had told me that. We're not going to discuss the number of years. I wish someone had told me that a very large number of years ago. We both, I think, one of the things that I guess I would say is kind of kindred spirits. I work a lot. People like, you work too much. And I'm like, I love this. I absolutely love this. I mean, there's certain things, okay, paying the taxes, not exactly in love with that. Doing the accounting, not as much in love with that either. But so much of this, I absolutely love. What is the most rewarding piece to you? And what is it what's that one big rewarding piece that you're like, yes, I get to do this?
I get to give people money and pay them. That is really what's rewarding to me. I love the fact that I'm able to put together a team and at the end of the job say, here's your money, job well done, let's do it again, and continue to build. There's something empowering. And as a fellow Goldman Sachs 10K SBer, I think that there's something really empowering about building a small business and making an impact in your community and also the creatives that you know, and being able to say, hey, I've got this really cool project. I'd love for you to come on and give people jobs. I love doing that. And I love being able to be collaborative in our approach. I cannot do it all. I am not such an egomaniac to think that I can do it all, and nor do I want to do it all. So I love to bring in people from all ages. I mean, some of our cameramen are very, very senior, and we pay them well and we bring them in for their expertise. I mean, they're in their 60s, 70s. They've been doing this for a long time. And then we have assistants that are 18. So bringing in people from 18 until 70 to all work together in a collaborative fashion on a creative project. We also, we pride ourselves on making sure we not just pay our people, but feed our people. So when they go on a purple critter job, they know that it's going to be a long 10 to 12 hour day. They'll get fed. So I think that having fun, we get a choice, right? We get a choice within our careers. We get a choice within what we want to do in life. And I want to have fun. I want to be around really great people. I want to work with awesome people. I want to have a good time while doing it. I want to eat well. I want to travel, and I want to be creative. So this kind of combines all of it.
I love that. It's funny when you said the pay people. That struck a personal chord with me. My social media manager, she's part-time in a lot of stuff with us. She's getting married here next year. She's like, Josh, I'm going to send you a wedding invite. And I said, don't you dare. I said, I hate weddings. I'm not coming. She's like, you better. You're paying for the whole thing. And I'm like, oh, I guess I kind of am. And it's that same thing when you said, we get to pay people to do this. To me, the fact that we get paid to do not only the production side, not only deal with those challenges, but once again, to pay other people to do what they enjoy is really, really, really cool. To me, that is an awesome place to leave it. Toni, I really appreciate your time today, and we will have to reconnect and revisit this again soon.
You bet. Thanks for having me, Josh. Best of luck as you start 2025, and let's make it a great year.
Sounds good. Thank you. There's one main thing that has stood out to me, and it stood out to me for the past couple of shows, and that is the passion that people have for what they're doing. And that's what shows in the content that they are creating. They truly love what they're doing. And to start up a camera and talk about it isn't a really big ask. It's the same thing. I mean, Toni may be behind the camera or behind the scenes in so many cases, but it becomes so easy to do it because she absolutely loves what she's doing. To me, that's such a big piece of this content creation. If you love what you're doing, it becomes so much easier to tell the world about it. And you should make sure that you are telling the world about it. That being said, I want to hear what your passion is. What is it you're working towards? What is the thing that's driving you? What's going to get you in front of the camera? That is what I would really like to hear from you. I'd also would love a review. Any suggestions you have about the podcast, any guests you may want to see on the podcast, would love to see and hear those things from you. As always, do me a favor and take care of yourself. And if you can, take care of someone else too. I will see you very soon. Creating engaging content can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. That's why I'm excited to share our Stomping Podcasting newsletter. You'll get actionable insights and expert tips straight to your inbox. These are to help you maximize your video marketing and podcasting return on investment. Head over to the show notes and click the link to subscribe to our free newsletter. Don't miss out on this opportunity to become a video marketing and podcasting pro.